Hello and welcome to a new episode of EU Decoded, where we wrap up the final Strasbourg plenary session of 2025. And this week the focus was firmly on delivering concrete results for European businesses, while also addressing key foreign policy topics, standing with Ukraine, countering Russian aggression, and navigating the evolving dynamic with the United States. But to start off, we'll turn to the key successes of the week. First, thanks to the efforts of the EPP Group, the European Commission presented an automotive package that will revise the CO2 standards for cars. In simple terms, the new proposal reverses the disastrous ban on internal combustion engines.
Weg von einem einseitigen Green Deal, der zu oft auf Verbote gesetzt hat, hin zu einem echten...
With this proposal, as explained by MEP Jens Giesecke, Europe is moving towards a more realistic, technology-neutral approach, one that balances climate ambition with industrial competitiveness. For the EPP Group, it also delivers on a clear election promise, offering much-needed support to thousands of workers at a critical moment for the sector. Businesses received another boost this week with the Parliament's positive vote on the so-called Omnibus I package, a set of measures designed to simplify rules and reduce costs. As MEP Jürgen Worben said, it's a first step towards growth.
It's a good day for European growth. Now we deliver on simplification. It's a first step to deliver on growth in Europe.
The approved changes ensure that only the largest companies are subject to extensive reporting requirements, while the focus shifts to real and concrete harms rather than hypothetical risks, which should significantly reduce paperwork and administrative burdens. Subsidiaries covered under group reporting will no longer have to report separately, cutting duplication, paperwork and unnecessary costs.
We need a lot of things. We need more simplification. We need a better internal market. We need to boost our energy production in Europe and get less dependent on Russia, as we have voted today as well. We need to create a situation where we have more capital flowing into businesses in Europe. We need to address all the free trade agreements that we have negotiated and conclude them.
Ahead of the European Leaders' Summit, the Parliament also reaffirmed its unwavering support for Ukraine. The EPP Group insists that Russia must be held fully accountable for its war of aggression and that frozen Russian assets should be used to help rebuild Ukraine and pay for the destruction caused.
Auch aus Sicht unserer Fraktion der Europäischen Volkspartei greift das Prinzip des
EPP Group Chairman Manfred Weber underlined that the perpetrator of the war must also bear responsibility for its consequences. And that's why the EPP Group supports using Russian assets to finance Ukraine's recovery. At the same time, the EPP Group stresses that strengthening Europe's own defence capabilities is now more urgent than ever. MEP Raza Jukneviciana called on EU member states to increase defence spending and take responsibility for Europe's long-term security.
The next couple of years will be the most dangerous for European security. I call on the leaders of the member states to understand this and remember famous expression of the American statesman James Freeman Clarke. A politician thinks of the next election, a statesman of the next generation. European statesmen and stateswomen, let's think not only about next election, which is important, but also about the next generations.
And that warning was echoed by MEP Michael Scherber, who stressed that the priority now is to strengthen Europe's role within NATO by building a strong European pillar and moving towards a more integrated defence framework.
Tak, Europa powinna być wdzięczna, bo po publikacji strategii bezpieczeństwa USA
Europe should be grateful, he said, because the publication of the United States security strategy has brought clarity. It shows exactly where Europe stands and underlines why Europeans must now take greater responsibility for their own security. And security doesn't stop at defence, it also includes energy security. Since the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, the European Union has paid more than 216 billion euros for Russian fossil energy. Even today, around 40 million euros is still paid every single day and every euro helps finance Russia's war of aggression. This cannot continue. The past years have made one thing unmistakably clear: Europe cannot and must not rely on Russia in any way.
We must speak honestly. Russia has never been a reliable partner. It manipulated gas flows to weaken governments and destabilize markets, most dramatically before invading Ukraine. Energy and aggression in this case are intertwined. No one should claim business is business when energy is used as a weapon.
As MEP Inessa Vaidere makes clear, Russia has deliberately used energy as a weapon to manipulate markets, pressure governments, and ultimately to fuel war. But there is also a clear message of confidence. Europe has alternatives.
The argument that we cannot replace Russian gas is not true. We can, and we already have.
This week, the European Parliament endorsed plans to phase out Russian LNG and pipeline gas, while preparing the gradual end of Russian oil and petroleum products. The agreement includes stricter monitoring, including of shadow fleets, harmonised penalties, and an exemption from prior authorisation for trustworthy gas imports. And under the new rules, all new Russian energy contracts will be banned from 2026. Existing contracts will be phased out through 2026 and 2027.
Vor wenigen Wintern saßen Millionen Europäerinnen und Europäer in kalten Wohnungen und sahen Rechnungen.
MEP Andrea Wexler recalled the winters when millions of Europeans sat in cold homes, schools and offices, facing energy bills they could barely afford, a direct consequence of Europe's dependence on Russian gas. Her conclusion was unequivocal: Europe will no longer be blackmailed and Europe will not finance a war of aggression.
Unsere Botschaft ist eindeutig. Europa wird nicht mehr erpresst. Europa finanziert keinen Angriffskrieg.
In Strasbourg this week, Europe faced hard truths about security, dependence and responsibility. But it also showed resolve to cut dangerous dependencies, to invest in defence and to stand with Ukraine. And that's it for this episode of EU Decoded. We wish you a Merry Christmas and see you in 2026.